number of migrants and refugees from Africa and the Middle East escaping to Europe reaches the 1 million mark. Lack of education might fuel radicalism in West Africa. And African cuisine hits the streets of Washington, D.C. Africa 54 starts right now. Well, good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. The International Organization for Migration says the number of migrants and refugees escaping from Africa and the Middle East for the European destinations has now topped the 1 million mark. It is the largest influx of its kind since the end of World War II. The Geneva-based organization says the massive flow of people is arriving in Europe by a combination of irregular and sea routes. It's a four-fold increase from 2014. Refugees from Syria, which has been ripped apart by a 5-year-old civil war that has left over 200,000 people dead and millions more displaced, account for half of all migrants and refugees, followed by refugees from two other war-torn countries, Afghanistan and Iraq.
Well, I think we need all of us to be concerned because we've never had a situation in recent times where you have so many unresolved conflicts without any semblance of hope out there that any of these can be resolved in the short to medium term. And people over time will become concerned about their future, their children not being in school, and they having no chance at all to work and to improve their lives.
Well, throughout this year, refugees have streamed into Greece, Bulgaria, Italy, Spain, Malta, and Cyprus, with the vast majority, over 800,000, arriving in Greece by boat. Some 3,600 people have died or disappeared trying to make the perilous Mediterranean Sea crossing. Now, in Djibouti, there is a dispute ongoing over the number of people killed and wounded during a violent clash between the police and civilians. The Foreign Affairs Minister says 70 people were killed on Monday when a religious celebration erupted into a violent clash with police. The opposition, however, disputes the account, claiming at least 19 people had died. Foreign Minister Mohammed Ali Yusuf says the incident began early on Monday as police attempted to control a crowd that had rapidly swelled from an expected 150 people to more than 1,000. Djibouti, home to a regional port as well as U.S. and French military bases, has faced sporadic violence before, usually sparked by protests against the government of President Ismail Omar Guelleh, whose party has a tight hold on power. Now, the Boko Haram insurgency in West Africa is keeping more than 1 million children from attending school. The UN Children's Agency, UNICEF, fears a lack of education will fuel further radicalism in and around Nigeria. Over 2,000 schools are closed across Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, while hundreds of others have been attacked, looted, or set on fire by Boko Haram jihadists. UNICEF says the number of children forced to flee Boko Haram's insurgents in Nigeria and neighboring countries has now reached 1.4 million. Around 500,000 were displaced in the last 5 months after a sharp rise in attacks by the Islamist jihadi group. While hundreds of schools in northeast Nigeria have reopened in recent months, insecurity and fear of violence are preventing many teachers from resuming classes, and it's also discouraging parents from sending their children back to school. The largest concentration of internally displaced persons, including children, are in camps or host communities in Borno State capital Maiduguri, the birthplace of the insurgency.
If you can see the level of damage that Boko Haram is causing to our people, you wonder why are they doing this? Because there isn't any motive behind creating such mayhem on your own people.
While the Nigerian army has freed the last few towns still under some of Boko Haram control, internally displaced persons are reluctant to return home. Boko Haram has struck back with a renewed wave of raids and suicide bombings in which they have attacked targets in public places such as markets and places of worship. Meanwhile, aid agencies say the renewed terrorist group's attacks have created a major hunger crisis in Africa's Lake Chad region, with malnutrition reaching catastrophic levels in some areas. The World Food Programme is appealing for $16.3 million to deal with immediate needs in Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, where hundreds of thousands of people are displaced and 750,000 are going hungry.
The people here have fled the islands because they have seen the parents or their children being killed by Boko Haram, and they had no other option. Now they are here, they have nothing, and they need our support. WFP is here. We are providing food to about 2,000 people today, but the needs are growing, and we need more and more support.
More than 50,000 people who normally fish and farm on fertile islands in Lake Chad had fled their homes in recent weeks following attacks by the militants who have massacred villages and looted crops and livestock. Boko Haram is mostly based in northeast Nigeria, but the militant group has this year intensified its campaign, setting up camps and launching attacks in neighboring Cameroon, Chad and Niger in its drive to carve out an Islamist caliphate. While the majority of schools in northeast Nigeria have been able to resume classes, many classrooms are severely overcrowded, as some schools are still being used to house people who have been displaced and are seeking shelter from the conflict. Well, for more on the impact of Boko Haram on schools in West Africa, I'm joined by Aliyu Mustafa, Managing Editor of VOA's House of Service. Aliyu, welcome to Africa 54.
Thanks, Vincent.
Now, you speak to people on a daily basis in that region. How is it? What is the feeling like, not being able to send your kids to school?
You know, Vincent, the unfortunate thing about this very depressing situation is that it is not just areas where Boko Haram operates that are affected by this impact on education in Nigeria. The entire Nigerian nation is affected by this because you know there have been many attacks on dormitories, on hostels, in girls' schools, the Chibok situation you remember very well. People are not comfortable sending their kids far away from home and not being able to personally supervise these children. That's one.
You know, someone would imagine that, especially in the far-flung areas and where there are schools, perhaps the government will take soldiers, police to guard schools. Has there been anything like that?
No, there hasn't been, because it's not possible for the government to guard every single school there is in Nigeria, even within the northeastern region where Boko Haram is more active than other parts of the country. There are tremendous numbers of schools, and in most cases, people are used to just sending these kids to school and sleeping soundly, not worried about that. It's supposed to be a safe
place, you know.
Because they've been safe, but, you know, education generally has been totally messed up by this Boko Haram phenomenon because, like I said, even in places that are far away from the northeastern part of Nigeria, even in the southern part of Nigeria, because of the nature of the attacks that are launched against the schools. So the impact has been really, really negative.
Now, what makes it worse is that generally, especially in the north and northeast, the number of people going to school or kids going to school has always been, or not going to school has always been a kind of higher. So this has made it even worse, right?
Well, you know, already teachers have had complaints. There have been many strikes by teachers, by staff, by employees in the educational sector. That was even before the Boko Haram phenomenon, came. So the emergence of Boko Haram situation has just worsened the situation, really.
Do you get a sense that the government is really bothered by this and is doing something about it?
I believe the government is seriously bothered by it and is doing as much as it could, but it's not enough.
Yes, and in terms of the idea that actually so many of the kids who may not go to school could be radicalized, is that something you buy?
That is something that is very possible. Remember, Vincent, this whole Boko Haram is a domestic issue. The militants are Nigerians most of the time. They are people that people grew up with. The soldiers fighting them are probably neighbors or classmates or old friends, and they find themselves fighting each other. When it is an internal situation, it is really a horrible situation. As far as doing something about it, maybe it is not enough for the government alone to be relied upon to do as much as it can. The community, the people themselves must come, rise and do something about it themselves.
Thank you very much for
your insights. You're very welcome. Thank you, Vincent.
Well, Aliyu Mustafa is the managing editor of VOA's House of Service. Well, a U.S. agency has listed 2 lion subspecies under the Endangered Species Act, offering them legal protection that will make it harder for hunters to import trophies into the country. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service listed lions found mostly in West Africa, West and Central Africa as endangered, and lions in Eastern and Southern Africa as threatened. And it says it will withhold permits from violators.
Saying that we're going to speak not just with our conscience or our voice, but with our economy. And we're going to put the power of our economy behind conservation of the lion. And so we can use that to incentivize, provide incentives for the range states to enact stronger, more effective, more transparent programs to achieve conservation.
Well, the measures enacted under the world's most powerful animal protection law will take effect beginning in January. Now, this move follows the extension of protection to African elephants and cheetahs. Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Well, coming up, terrorism and national security are the top concerns among American voters in the 2016 U.S. presidential election campaign. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
During the winter holiday season, a small town in Finland more than quadruples in population with visitors to Santa Claus Village. The picturesque little town just north of Rovaniemi is heavily dependent on tourism, with guests increasingly coming from Asia. Hong Kong visitor Gary and Guy has noticed Asians are eager to learn more about Europe.
Asia countries, they're more richer, especially for China and also Korea.
The number of Chinese traveling abroad tops 80 million a year. Sean Tipton is with the Association of British Travel Agents and says the number of holidays Europeans take has pretty much hit the saturation point.
So the really big growth market is definitely Asia, but in particular the Chinese market. Japan has always been pretty large, but China's scope, though, is absolutely immense.
China's growing middle class has made it the top spender on tourism worldwide, helping to boost tourism revenues in European cities like Rovaniemi. From VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Well, in the wake of the recent terror attacks in Paris and San Bernardino, California, public opinion polls show that American voters regard terrorism and national security as the top issues in the 2016 presidential election campaign. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone has more.
Donald Trump remains the dominant figure in the Republican presidential race. And recent polls show Republican voters rate him higher than any of his rivals on dealing with terrorism.
This isn't going to be an election on niceness anymore, even if I wasn't nice. This is going to be an election on competence and smartness and toughness, because otherwise our country is finished. It's finished.
At the latest Republican debate, rival Jeb Bush questioned whether Trump was ready to lead.
That if I'm president, I'll be a commander-in-chief, not an agitator-in-chief or a divider-in-chief, that I will lead this country in a way that will create greater security and greater safety.
Experts thought the focus on security would help establishment contenders like Bush. But it's not worked out that way, says analyst Stuart Rothenberg.
A foreign policy crisis or an environment focused on defense, national security would help candidates with some stature, with some experience on foreign policy and national security issues. So far, the early indications are it has helped the kind of loudest, blustery candidate, that would be Donald Trump.
The emphasis on security may have also helped Democratic contender Hillary Clinton widen her lead over rival Bernie Sanders. Clinton wants to intensify the military campaign against Islamic State fighters, but is questioning the strategy of some of the Republican candidates.
Promising to carpet bomb until the desert glows doesn't make you sound strong. It makes you sound like you're in over your head.
During the latest Democratic debate, Bernie Sanders acknowledged the threat posed by the Islamic State, but warned against repeating past mistakes.
The United States must lead, but the United States is not the policeman of the world. The United States must not be involved in perpetual warfare in the Middle East.
The focus on terrorism and security could help Clinton in the Democratic primaries, but she may need to separate herself from President Barack Obama in the general election, says John Fortier.
The president's numbers have really gone down on foreign policy. He is seen, especially on terrorism, but broadly on foreign policy as being weaker. It hasn't hurt his overall numbers, but there is some traction for Republicans to gain.
The first real test for all the presidential contenders will come in early February in Iowa and New Hampshire. Jim Malone, VOA News, Washington.
Well, how much do you know about Namibia? Well, recently a trade mission from the United States visited the Southern African nation to explore investment opportunities. Now, leading the mission was Martin Anjaba, the Namibian ambassador to the U.S. Ambassador Anjaba joins us today to tell us more about that mission and his country. Ambassador Anjaba, welcome to Africa 54. We're very happy to have you here with us.
Yes. Thank you for the opportunity to appear on your program.
Yes. Now, first, tell us a little bit about the trade mission, how significant that is to you, to your country.
Let me first inform you and the rest of the audience that the Embassy of Namibia in Washington, D.C. organizes annual trade missions to Namibia. Mm-hmm. And we, in fact, are in the process of now planning a return trade mission from Namibia to the U.S.
That's interesting.
So this is important because we introduce Namibia to the business community in the U.S. and vice versa. It's important because when we take business people to Namibia, we have them interact with our leaders, government officials, and their counterparts in the business community in Namibia. When they get the information about the opportunities that are available for investment and partnership, then they have their own direct discussions with Namibian counterparts.
Ambassador, talking about opportunities, many people have to say, don't talk about Namibia all the time, or even don't know much about Namibia. What are some of the investment opportunities you can kind of bring to the fore that people could get to know about?
We have opportunities in various sectors. I can start with the energy sector, and you probably may know that we will soon be facing a problem with the energy supplies in Namibia, but also in the region as a whole. We are looking at the possibilities for alternative sources of energy, solar energy, for example.
Like a big desert at Kalahari.
Indeed, and wind.
Yes.
Yes. All along the coast of Namibia, we have very, very good opportunities for wind. But we also have opportunities in other sectors, in the mining sector, where we have a lot of resources, ranging from diamonds to uranium to copper, gold, and so on, and other sectors as well.
Now, Ambassador Anjaba, all African countries are always trying to woo investors. The biggest question always in the mind of investors is, why would I go to Namibia? What are some of the favorable conditions that you think would make Namibia a place where somebody wants to go and invest in?
We have stability in Namibia. We have peace. And we have also the climate that we have created for investment. We have laws in place that will protect foreign investors. We also a law-abiding citizen. And I think we have the conditions for foreign investment. We have infrastructure that is first class. And in fact, we are positioning ourselves as a logistics hub for the region of Southern Africa because of the infrastructure that we have, the road network, the rail network, the telecommunications, and the hub of Walvis Bay.
This is the sad part because people never get to know about these things, because there's no trouble, there's no chaos. So we don't get to know about all the great things about Namibia. But, also in the recent past, people have been very interested in how China is coming into play here. It is a major kind of a player now in the geopolitics of Africa. How has that impacted the flow, particularly of Western investors into Namibia?
Well, it's true China has invested or is investing a lot in Namibia, but also in Africa in general. But I don't think this has impacted negatively on Western investment in Namibia because we are open and free for investment. We invite everybody to come in and compete with the Chinese. Mm-hmm. Moreover, the Chinese are all over the world.
But you don't give them monopoly, right?
Of course not.
Yeah.
Everybody will come in and participate on equal footing.
Yeah.
We, of course, do not expect to have conditions and conditionalities imposed on us.
Which come many times from the West.
Yes, sometimes they come, but everybody who comes, we have to agree.
Yeah.
With them.
As a sovereign state, right?
As a sovereign state.
Now, question, many citizens of African countries are very kind of worried about foreign investment. They say citizens many times do not benefit fully from the foreign investment. Politicians might gain, but not the citizens. What are you doing as a country to ensure that whatever is being brought in is actually going into the communities and helping develop your nation and benefit your people?
Well, we have a program of empowerment, which was implemented after independence, whereby the previously disadvantaged Namibians also get the opportunity to participate in the exploitation of the natural resources of the country. So when you talk about foreign investment, and at the beginning I mentioned about partnership, we emphasize on partnership because we want Namibians to participate. Whoever is coming in to invest in the country should also involve local people. That will help us to create jobs. It will help us also to have our people benefit from the resources of the country. So we have these programs, and we make sure that Namibians get the licenses, for example, in the mining sector, for exploration and for mining. So whoever is coming in now will have to negotiate with the Namibians and see how, in terms of percentage, they can form this partnership. And this is one of the main reasons why we encourage investors to come to Namibia to look at those opportunities.
Yeah. And perhaps Namibia needs to do something to make sure that people hear more about Namibia, talk more about Namibia, and just know that there's some African countries quietly sitting somewhere peacefully and developing. Thanks a lot, Mr. Ambassador, for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
It was a delight. Well, Martin Anjaba is the Namibian ambassador to the United States. It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. African cuisine is a hit in the U.S. Capitol. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In South Sudan, the chairman of the Joint Monitoring and Evaluation Commission, Festus Mogae, says that meeting between government and rebel officials is not a renegotiation of the peace deal. And in Europe, the International Organization for Migration says 1 million refugees and migrants from around the world have arrived in Europe in 2015. In Morocco, officials hold the first of preparatory meetings for next year's global climate talks to be held in the capital, Rabat. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, South African peacekeepers in Goma receive Christmas gifts while on assignment in the country's volatile east. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back. Now, in many American cities, you're bound to find yummy street food. The U.S. Capitol is no different. Africa 54's Estate to the U.S. brings us a taste of Washington, D.C.
From tasty kebabs, dangerously delicious, healthy fools, Thai happy bellies, to the taste of Ethiopia, food trucks offering mouth-watering dishes dot the Gallery Place, a neighborhood within distance of the U.S. Congress. Food truck owner Shekau is from Senegal.
I'm preparing smoked barbecue, beef, pork and chicken. All is smoked. We smoke the pork and the beef 14 hours overnight, and the chicken we smoke them on 1 hour and a half. And we have smoked barbecue ribs. Yes, we smoke them like 1 hour and a half, sham to the chicken, and we do mac and cheese too.
The healthy food truck serves Vietnamese food. The fish is smoking hot with plenty of organic veggies to go with it. Meet Mike.
Okay, so we have like salmon, we have shrimp, we have chicken, we have tofu, we have just get grilled vegetables. All the entrees come with the choice between either rice or noodles. And we have 2 different types of dipping sauces that you can use. We don't use a lot of salt. We don't have anything that's fried. So you can come here and eat every day, and you will not gain 1,000,000 pounds.
Lily is from Ethiopia. In 2014, the Washingtonian magazine ranked her food as the best of D.C. She says business is good.
Yes, it's good food. If you have quality, you know what you're doing is good business. But at the same time, it kills you. If somebody else who won't help you, it's a very tough job. It's a lot of competition. You need to come up on the top.
Ben Miller is a regular customer at Lily's food truck.
Yeah, I like the food at Lily Pad a lot. It's definitely the best Ethiopian truck that I've tried.
Shawin Amin sells halal food. He offers meals that appeal to a wider clientele.
We do lamb and chicken gyros, Philly cheesesteaks, chicken cheesesteaks, lamb kebabs, chicken kebabs, and we have Greek salads.
Most food truck owners say they serve between 100 to 150 customers a day. They set up at 10 a.m., start serving around 11:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Each meal sells for $8 to $12. Pretty good money in a matter of hours compared to restaurants.
I think the restaurant, you sell more, but you have more expenses. You have rent, you have all these other things, and you have to work more hours every day. The truck is less money, but less expenses. At the end of the day, that might be better for certain people. It's more flexible. It's fun. It's especially like 8-9 months of the year when it's good weather, from like March till about October and November. Everybody wants to come out. Everybody wants to eat at the food trucks, and it's just a great thing to be a part of.
At the Thai Happy Bellies, I meet Wanda, who cannot get enough of DC's street food.
I like the food trucks because you can try a variety of food. The restaurants will always be here. Their menu is always the same, but they rotate the trucks here. So every day you could try something different.
It is a cold day, and with so many yummy choices, it is time for me to get some food. But first, I will sample.
Yeah, is this lamb?
Yeah, this is lamb.
So next time you come downtown Washington, D.C., you don't have to break the bank to get a mouth-watering dish to remember. Esther Gidu-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Yep, it's about lunchtime now. It's time for that kind of food, right? Well, that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us here in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words. This word has to do with health care in the United States.
John Boehner, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, does not like President Barack Obama's health care reforms.
Why did the president mislead the American people when he promised they could keep their health care plan? Why is Obamacare forcing Americans to lose access to the doctors they like?
The Affordable Care Act, often called Obamacare, is the president's program to provide health care for Americans.
Despite early problems with the program's website, the White House hopes that many Americans will use Obamacare to get health care.
Now, when you hear the word Obamacare, you will know what this news word means.